If you happen to mention to a European food purist that dipping a piping hot, salted fry from McDonald's or a Wendy's classic combo into an ice-cold, ultra-sweet milkshake is the ultimate afternoon treat, you will likely be met with a look of sheer horror. They might call it a dirty, deeply wrong, and downright psychotic violation of culinary laws, something that should probably come with a warning label or a police escort.
Pommes and Milkshake?
It's amazing.
Unsere Amerikaner sind so merkwürdig.
Right now, internet feeds are completely flooded with cultural reaction videos of traditionalists being handed this exact pairing, forced to stand in front of a camera, and face the ultimate test of their rigid dietary principles. But when they taste it, it's a whole different story.
I don't know. Hold on. That shouldn't work. That should not work. Hot French fries in a chocolate milkshake.
Well, it's a Frosty. It's
a Frosty, but it's basically a chocolate milkshake. That shouldn't work, but that's actually really good.
So, what is the real deal here? Is this whole phenomenon just a bizarre, lowbrow joke born out of American fast food drive-thrus? Or is there actually a brilliant, scientifically backed reason hiding beneath a combination that looks entirely too weird to work? Before we get to the moment when that first French fry disappears into a milkshake, there is a cultural detail worth understanding. The strange reaction to this combination may not begin with the tongue at all. It may begin with something much older. The idea that certain foods simply belong together and certain foods do not. For generations, food traditions across Europe have often been closely connected to geography, family, craftsmanship, and regional identity. A dish can carry the memory of a place. A particular cheese may be associated with a region. A pastry may follow a recipe that has changed very little across generations. A meal may be structured around courses, with savory foods occupying one part of the experience and sweets arriving later. That does not mean Europeans would necessarily reject every sweet and savory combination. European cuisine has plenty of them. Cheese with fruit, cured meats with melon, salted caramel, and sweet accompaniments to savory dishes could all serve as reminders that the boundary has never been absolute. But there can still be a cultural preference for combinations that feel intentional. And that word intentional matters.
I know this might sound weird, but have you ever dipped your fries in a strawberry milkshake? Well gone.
A carefully prepared dish might be expected to have a reason for every ingredient. The ingredients should complement one another. The preparation should preserve something recognizable. Even when a recipe evolves, there may be an underlying sense that the original character of the food deserves respect. Now put a basket of fast food fries next to a vanilla milkshake. Suddenly, the cultural logic looks very different.
No, because this right here, this, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
The French fry is not arriving at the table as a centuries-old regional delicacy. It is arriving in a paper container, probably still hot, probably heavily salted, and perhaps sitting next to a burger. The milkshake is cold, sweet, thick, and generally associated with dessert or an indulgent drink. From one perspective, keeping them separate makes perfect sense. From another perspective, someone may look at the two and think, why bother keeping them separate? That second attitude fits rather comfortably within the American food landscape. American cuisine has developed through immigration, regional experimentation, industrial food production, diners, roadside restaurants, drive-ins, and fast food culture.
You know what? That's pretty good.
It is also developed around a strong preference for convenience and personalization. Food can be modified, combined, supersized, customized, and reinvented without necessarily requiring a long argument about whether the original version has been violated. The diner may be one of the clearest examples of this mentality. Breakfast can appear at almost any hour. Pancakes can sit beside bacon. burgers can arrive with fries. A milkshake can come with an enormous meal. The rules may be less about preserving a particular culinary sequence and more about giving people something satisfying. That distinction could help explain why the fries and milkshake combination has remained familiar in American popular culture. Wendy's Frosty and French fries are probably the most recognizable example. McDonald's fries, paired with a sweet shake or soft serve style dessert, have also become part of the same broader food habit. It is almost comically simple. There may be no grand culinary manifesto behind it. Someone has fries, someone has a shake, someone gets curious. And suddenly America has another food combination that sounds ridiculous until somebody admits that they like it. That kind of experimentation may be easier to accept in a food culture where comfort and convenience frequently matter as much as culinary tradition. Europe, meanwhile, has developed formal systems that can reinforce the connection between food and place. The European Union's geographical indication system, for example, provides protected designations for products whose qualities or reputation are connected to a particular region or traditional production method. The purpose is not to prevent Europeans from experimenting in their kitchens. Obviously, nobody is sending a culinary inspector to your house because you put an unusual sauce on dinner.
What?
It's a milkshake.
Yeah, milkshake and
A
fries.
milkshake.
With fries. It's so good.
You gotta try it. Ma, you gotta try what?
Yeah,
Did you have an education? Close your mouth.
But the broader idea is revealing. Certain foods can be valuable precisely because their identity is tied to where they come from and how they have traditionally been made. That creates a very different relationship with the concept of culinary change. If a food is part of a family's history, a region's identity, or a national culinary tradition, altering it may sometimes feel like more than changing ingredients. It can feel like changing the story attached to the food. The American fast food tradition tends to approach food from another direction. Here, reinvention can be part of the appeal. A familiar food can become a new menu item. A regional dish can be adapted. Two ingredients from completely different culinary traditions can end up on the same plate. If customers enjoy it, the combination may have a chance to become part of the culture itself. That does not necessarily make American food more adventurous, nor does it make European food more conservative. It may simply mean that the two culinary worlds have historically placed emphasis on different things. One may place greater cultural weight on continuity. The other may place greater cultural weight on possibility. And that difference becomes particularly visible when something as ordinary as a French fry crosses the invisible border between dinner and dessert. To someone who expects food categories to remain relatively clear, the sight can look almost absurd. To someone raised around diners and fast food counters, it may barely register as unusual. Neither person necessarily needs to be wrong. They may simply be looking at the same fry through two very different cultural maps, and that is why the reaction matters. The real surprise is not that some Europeans might find the combination strange. It is that a food habit that can initially look so culturally out of place may have become familiar enough in America to require almost no explanation at all. Before anyone tastes the combination, then, there is already a story sitting on the table. One side may see a boundary being crossed. The other may see lunch getting a little more interesting. And the French fry, sitting there innocently between them, may be the least concerned about the argument. Whether it's mayo, ketchup, or gravy, French fries are usually served with something to dip them in. But diners have been known to go rogue and make their own dipping sauces out of whatever they can find. Such cases of culinary ingenuity led to the marriage of milkshakes and fries, one of oddest and somehow most delicious pairings in the fast food world. It seems to go against logic, but the combination's appeal is backed by the science of taste. Though they're listed on different sections of the menu, milkshakes and French fries make more sense together than you might assume. Many famous food pairings like chicken and waffles, maple and bacon, and chocolate and pretzels combine salty and sweet. This pairing stimulates taste buds that aren't active in the presence of sugar alone. According to studies, sweet and salty foods activate sugar receptors on the tongue's sweet taste cells. Thanks to these receptors, salt enhances sweetness rather than clashing with it or canceling it out. Fries and milkshakes also have the hot and cold dynamic on their side, like distinct flavors layered into a dish. Contrasting temperatures fire up different parts of our brain, leading to a more interesting and more pleasant eating experience. As Many explains, this is why ice cream is often paired with warm foods, like apple pie, hot fudge, and fresh-baked brownies. The physiology of taste is just one factor that determines the foods we love. Culture and peer pressure also play a huge role, which is why some flavors embraced in certain parts of the world are reviled in others. Dipping French fries in milkshakes is something many people start doing as children. Because the items aren't listed together on the menu, kids learn to put them together from people in their social circles, like a parent, older sibling, or the captain of their soccer team. This encourages them to open their minds to the otherwise unusual matchup. Though they didn't come up with it themselves, many businesses have embraced the off-menu combo. McDonald's and Wendy's have both promoted dipping fries in milkshakes, or Frosties in Wendy's case, on social media. Some restaurants serve upscale takes on the classic that include fries as a milkshake topping, though. For people who grew up with the pairing, the DIY version is hard to beat. Have you ever watched someone stare at a cup of vanilla Frosty from Wendy's like it's a suspicious chemical weapon just before committing an act that supposedly ruins civilization? It starts with hesitation. You get this grand-scale European food critic or just someone who treats a simple lunch like a UNESCO World Heritage Site holding a hot, salted fry from McDonald's as if it were coated in radioactive waste. There is usually a heavy sigh, a look of profound European disappointment, and perhaps a polite mutter about how traditions are crumbling. Then comes the slow-motion, highly skeptical dip into an ice-cold, ultra-sweet milkshake from Burger King. You might almost expect sirens to go off. And then, something rather inconvenient happens to their rigid worldview. The moment that piping hot, heavily salted potato hits the thick, freezing cold dairy, the entire strict playbook of European culinary law seemingly goes out the window. It appears that physics and human biology have a funny way of mocking centuries of snooty food rules. Suddenly, that defensive posture melts away faster than soft serve on a hot July afternoon in Texas. You look at their face, and the script changes. There is a brief, quiet pause where reality hits them. The tongue isn't actually confused. It might just be having the time of its life. It seems hard to argue with a flavor profile that has quietly powered millions of American road trips and late-night diner booths for decades. You might start wondering if all those years of listening to lectures on what goes with what were just a waste of good eating time. Sometimes, breaking the rules isn't a crime at all. It might just be the best thing in the room. If you happen to think that dipping a hot salted fry from McDonald's or a Wendy's Frosty into something sweet is the weirdest thing human engineering has ever produced, you might want to look around at what the rest of the world has been getting away with for centuries. It turns out that humanity has had a long, slightly obsessive affair with mixing sugar and salt long before fast food drive-thrus ever showed up on your local corner. Take a trip across the globe, and you might find that playing fast and loose with flavor borders is practically a universal sport. Down in Southeast Asia, millions of people swear by a bowl of authentic Thai Tom Yum Goong, a masterclass in balancing fiery heat, sharp citrus, and a heavy-handed punch of palm sugar mixed directly with deeply savory, fermented fish sauce. It seems nobody warns tourists there that they are committing an ethical violation against their taste buds. Instead, they just keep ordering bowls of it by the millions every single year. Or look a bit closer to home, up north in Canada, where they somehow convince themselves that slapping sweet, juicy chunks of pineapple onto a bed of melted mozzarella cheese and salty ham known to the world as Hawaiian pizza was a good idea. Despite what purists might mutter under their breath, major chains like Domino's and Pizza Hut have quietly moved countless billions of slices of this exact combination, proving that comfort food rarely obeys polite rules. Even the high-end culinary world seems guilty of playing both sides of the fence. Modern menus love serving up a crisp summer salad featuring sweet, watery watermelon paired with sharp, salty Greek feta cheese, or wrapping fresh, juicy peaches in a blanket of dry-cured Italian prosciutto. Statistically speaking, studies on consumer flavor preferences suggest that up to 70% of people secretly gravitate towards sweet and savory pairings when they want a quick mood boost, whether they care to admit it in polite company or not. So, the next time someone tries to tell you that combining a cold Dairy Queen shake with a handful of salty fries crosses some sacred line, You might just remind yourself that the best things in life usually happen when you stop listening to the rule book and just see what tastes good. If you gather a room full of critics to watch someone dunk a hot salted fry from McDonald's or a Wendy's classic combo into an ice-cold milkshake, you are bound to get a front row seat to a masterclass in human stubbornness. Once the tasting is over and the napkins come out, the room usually fractures into three very distinct camps, ranging from absolute conversion to flat-out denial. First, you have the group that quietly surrenders right on camera. These are the folks who take one bite, stare blankly into space, and seemingly watch decades of strict culinary dogma evaporate in real time. They might award the pairing a solid 9.5 out of 10, suddenly acting like they discovered fire or invented the wheel. Give it a few minutes, and you might catch them eyeing an extra-large order of fries from Burger King just to test the limits of their newfound enlightenment. Then comes the middle ground, the cautious pragmatists. They will admit, perhaps with a slightly defensive shrug, that the contrast of hot, crispy salt against thick, sweet dairy isn't quite the disaster they expected. They might even give it a respectable passing grade, but give them about 5 minutes and half a cup of rich Dairy Queen soft serve later, and they will likely wave their hands and claim it gets a bit too rich for regular rotation. To them, it is a fun novelty, but they would probably prefer to stick to their usual routine before things get too complicated. And finally, you have the hardliners. These are the purists who could probably witness a miracle and still find something to complain about. Even after tasting it, their brows remain furrowed, arms crossed tightly over their chests. You can almost hear them muttering about how a proper lunch should never involve a dairy product that belongs in the dessert category. They seem perfectly content to retreat back to their comfort zones, convinced that some lines were simply never meant to be crossed, even if the rest of the room is having a genuinely good time. You might find it funny how a simple paper cup and a handful of potatoes can cause such a dramatic divide. At the end of the day, whether you decide to join the first group or hide out with the third, you have to admit that a little bit of culinary rebellion makes life a whole lot more interesting. Everything is bigger in America, we all know that's true, don't we? While people in Europe often take pride in elegant, modest portions and emphasize balance, over here, eating modestly almost feels like a form of self-deprivation. American portion sizes aren't designed merely to fill your stomach, they're built to test the limits of human endurance. When first-time European visitors order an individual entree at restaurant chains like the Cheesecake Factory or BJ's restaurant, it's hard not to laugh. You can see them staring blankly at their plates, wondering if the server accidentally brought out enough food for a family of 3. But that's the American philosophy of value. To us, a massive meal isn't just food, it's a great deal. People almost measure a restaurant's generosity by the sheer weight of the plate placed in front of them. And if you can't finish it, no problem. The culture of taking home a doggy bag isn't viewed here as lacking sophistication, as it might be elsewhere. Instead, it's simply smart and practical. One restaurant dinner easily becomes tomorrow's lunch. Isn't that economics at its finest? Nothing captures this culture shock better than American food combos. When Europeans first see someone take a hot, salty French fry and dip it straight into a freezing, sugary milkshake, their immediate reaction is usually disgust. That's dirty. That's totally wrong. But watch a little longer. The moment that mental barrier vanishes and they take that first daring bite, criticism instantly turns into pure bliss. The contrast of hot and cold, salty and sweet, creates an undeniable flavor explosion. Have you noticed how social media is now flooded with photos of giant burgers, overflowing fries, and milkshakes so enormous they seem to defy the laws of physics? It's not just a meal anymore. It's a badge of honor, their way of proudly declaring that they've conquered an America that refuses to hold back. Perhaps these oversized portions and wild flavor pairings are a reflection of America's abundance and unrestrained spirit. And after getting over that initial culture shock, those European visitors realize that this sweet and salty madness is actually pretty incredible. If you take a step back from all the noise, you might realize that the great French fry and milkshake debate was never really about a paper cup or a handful of potatoes. It seems people have spent way too much time worrying about what belongs where, forgetting that some of the best things in life usually happen when you stop judging a book by its cover. That weird combination from Wendy's, McDonald's, or Burger King, once labeled as a complete disaster, has quietly proven that instinct and science often know a lot more than rigid old rules ever will. Perhaps the real takeaway here isn't just about mastering a late-night snack hack. It is about remembering that a little bit of curiosity and a willingness to break out of the usual routine can turn an ordinary Tuesday night into something genuinely fun. After all, if you never test the waters, you might miss out on discovering your new favorite thing. So, tell us honestly, have you ever actually dared to cross that line and dip your fries into a cold shake, or were you too busy shaking your head at the whole idea? Drop a comment below and let us know the wildest, most bizarre food combination you secretly love. And if you enjoyed breaking the rules with us today, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss out on our next adventure.